But anyway, you're sort of a lifelong Jets fan, and you're all in, professionally, personally. Where does this rank for you in terms of Jets victories?
I called it the gutsiest win I've ever seen from them.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, they go into this game they lost their best offensive lineman last week in Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yep.
They go into this game with really no starting corners, no Sauce Gardner, no DJ Reed, no Brandon Eccles, so the backups were hurt. They're obviously without Aaron Rodgers, no Doug. Garrett Wilson is dealing with, thanks to the MetLife turf, dealing with a bad ankle throughout the entire game. It feels like you're just sitting there and you're going, what more can go wrong? Oh, and then their rookie guard, Joe Tippmann, who's been great this year, he goes out for the rest of the game. And to beat the Eagles, who were undefeated, had some signs of, flaws this year compared to where they were last year. You go to the bye 3-3 without Aaron Rodgers, with Zach Wilson, and that is exciting.
And we talked about this kind of when Aaron Rodgers went down, which is just, we'll get into fantasy here in 1 second, but I will just say that, I think I said this because I did a lot of interviews as well around, what's this mean, for Rodgers and the Jets and everything like that. I'm like, look, their schedule, the first 6 games are brutal. And Robert Saleh talked about that even with Rodgers. I want to get through these first 6 games. And I was like, if you guys can get through these first 6 games with Zach Wilson just sort of Brock Purdying it, don't lose you don't need to win the game for us. You can run the ball well, you can play good defense, but just don't lose the game for us. If you guys get out of this at 3-3, I think you're sitting pretty. And so it didn't happen the exact way we thought. Right. It was a lot of peaks and valleys along the way. And if you'd asked me which of the 3 games you guys win, I probably wouldn't have picked Bills, Broncos, and Eagles would be the 3 that you guys would be victorious in. The Patriots feel like that's a game you probably should have won, especially looking back at. But you guys head into the bye at 3-3, and you got to feel pretty good. And I think fantasy-wise, we'll get into this here in a little bit, but I think you feel good about Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, the Jets' offensive players that you care about.
Yep, schedule eases up as well. And it's funny that you say that that was the gutsiest win, because to me, maybe the gutsiest win was week 1 this year against Buffalo. But that win was so colored by Aaron Rodgers, where I think all Jets fans felt bad the next day, even though it was such a momentous win. Now this one, there's no taint on it. It was just an incredible win. Now the season is alive.
Yeah, the season's alive. And Jay, we were talking before the show started, Robert Saleh, it's a long road to be the coach of the year because there are so many great stories this year, like Dan Campbell, like Mike McDaniel. But when you look at it, Robert Saleh, Ron Rivera, of course, just hovering around.
Josh McDaniels.
Yes, exactly.
Arthur Smith.
All of the great stories. It's incredible. The guy takes a lot in the New York media. He really, really does. And if you said that Aaron Rodgers would go down 4 plays into his season and they'd be 3-3 at the bye with Zach Wilson, a big shout out to Robert Saleh.
What did you think when Breece ran into the end zone?
Oh, we were devastated. We were devastated on the desk. 2 minutes for the Eagles offense. The Eagles let them score.
We're all over the place, but we actually had this. We had a long debate in the Football Night in America set there. We were talking about this, and me and Coach Garrett and Deb McCord and everything like that, and we were talking about this, and I just it was kind of split down the middle because some are like, you got to take a knee and you got to run it out, but if you start doing the math. Even if they run 2 plays, immediate timeout, they had 2 timeouts left, the Eagles did, right? And then you run down the 3rd play, and then you've got to kick the field goal, right? Then you're still with 45 seconds left because it was 1:49. And so the argument goes, are you better off doing that and kicking a field goal with and giving the ball back to the Eagles with 40 seconds left, and all they have to do is get to in place of a 60-yard field goal because that's Jake Elliott's range. Yeah. Jake Elliott can make a 60-yard field goal in theory, right? Or are you better off making them score a touchdown with what ended up happening a minute and a half in a game in which your defense has stopped them all game long?
That's the key. And they pitched a shutout in the second half.
Yeah. Last thing, and then we can move on, because I do think this is fascinating. So I was someone who, I very much needed the Eagles to lose yesterday for financial reasons and also emotionally, because I'm a diehard Jets fan. But as it was happening...
And your emotions are tied to your mind.
Yes, they go hand in hand.
Exactly. But as it was happening in real time, the general rule is if a team is letting you score, you probably shouldn't score because they're letting you do it for a reason. But at the same time, I agree, just with the way the Jets defense was playing, I was happier with a 4 or 6 point lead and the Eagles having time and timeouts than only 40 seconds and driving down the field. I was happy with the touchdown in that spot, and then the Jets defense, I think, rewarded that.
Yeah, I just think it was going to be tougher for the Eagles to score a touchdown.
That's the key.
To me, the argument is, and I know I'm sort of on the wrong side of this. I think most people feel like it was a mistake that Breece should have taken the knee and gone down.
I moved after. I changed my mind. I was like, you know what? They hadn't scored that half. It was a big ask.
And I'm just saying, I think it is. I think almost, I know this is going to sound insane, I think time becomes irrelevant. And that's, in this meaning that like they were going to have enough time to either get in place for a field goal or have enough time to get down to take a shot at the end zone. And just, I think it's easier to stop them from scoring a touchdown than it is to stop them from scoring a field goal the way the defense had played that game so far. That's my argument.
And the Jets made you look right at the end
True.
of the day.
Here's what I would have done, and no one's ever done this. I don't think anyone will ever do this. If I was Brees, I would have taken a knee at the 1, get them to call timeout, and then you try and run it in from there. You get them to burn timeouts, and then you're like splitting the difference. But like that's just never going to happen. But
yeah, so
I do think
it is
that might be mathematically the best play.
That is interesting. Yeah, whether if they ran it twice or if he just took a knee the second time, made them call out, and then you try to score in the third one. Yeah. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.